Seems that every time we bring our Thrillseeker audience some film about surfing, you write in and ask for more. So we called our experts in the field, cameramen Greg McGillivray and Jim Freeman, to get their suggestions. This time they came up with the wildest and most dangerous surfing film we've ever seen. Surfing at Waimea, Makaha, and Sunset. Premier surfer and Thrillseeker Corky Carroll, who has surfed all three, will explain the action. We located Corky at Huntington Beach, California, where he practices the techniques he uses in Hawaii.
Waimea Bay on the north shore of Hawaii is probably the place where the largest waves in the world are ridden. I've ridden just about every spot in the world of any importance, and Waimea is definitely the most dangerous, scariest, and has the largest waves of any of the other spots. I think probably the most spectacular rides that you'll see are at Waimea Bay. One thing that's interesting about Waimea is the fact that it breaks in a bay, and you have waves breaking on either side of the bay on the points. Well, with all that water coming into the bay, it has to go out someplace, and it goes right out the middle in what we call a rip, or a very strong current going out the middle. So what generally happens at Waimea, if you lose your board, it'll either go into the rocky point and get demolished, or it'll go into the bay in the middle and go out. And sometimes it actually goes out to sea and you never get it back again. One of the hazards there is if you do lose your board, you have to swim in. And you have to swim right in the middle of the waves. You got to stay right next to the rocks to swim all the way in. Otherwise, you'll get in that current in the middle of the bay and go out to sea, in which they might not ever see you again either. The approximate depth of the water right where the waves break is about 30 feet deep. Now that seems pretty deep, although when you fall off your board on a 25, 30-foot wave, it's not uncommon to be bounced off the bottom, and sometimes rather severely.
Those waves are pounding over 9 tons of water on the surfers.
The guys that surf Waimea the most consistently are veterans of surfing. They've been surfing for a long time, and they've worked their way up to riding Waimea from riding smaller spots, and they haven't just jumped right into it. One of the real dangerous things are, you get a hot surfer from California or something, he's never been to Hawaii, he's been riding Malibu or Hermosa Beach all his life, and he's pretty good, and he goes over to Hawaii and thinks he's going to conquer the big surf, and he paddles out Waimea and he's lost. And this creates a hazard for everybody else that's out there too, because when you've got a fellow out there who's in trouble and doesn't really know what he's doing, he can jeopardize the safety of everybody else that's out there too. That happens a lot. At Waimea Bay, I think that the fastest you would go on a surfboard is the speed of free fall. And at Waimea Bay, when you take off at the top of the wave, you literally free fall from the top to the bottom. In other words, your board is almost airborne from the top of the wave to the bottom of the wave, just barely touching sometimes.
The free fall speed that Corky mentioned comes to 120 miles an hour.
One of the really gassy looking things in surfing is a wipeout. From the beach, wipeouts look pretty spectacular. There's nothing quite as crowd-pleasing as a good, blood-curdling, bone-crushing wipeout. When you're out surfing, though, these wipeouts aren't quite as fun as they look from the beach. If you don't get hurt, it's not bad, but when you're riding those big waves in Hawaii, like Waimea, Sunset Beach, and Pipeline, you can get pretty hurt getting wiped out. So getting wiped out isn't really that much fun, and nobody really tries to get wiped out. As a matter of fact, the idea is not to get wiped out. The waves range between 10 and 20 feet in height. Anything over 20 feet generally closes out. By the term closing out, I mean that the waves are too big to be ridden at that particular spot due to the fact that you can't get out, and even if you did get out, you'd have a hard time getting back in. It's pretty dangerous. And at the same time, when it's under 10 feet, the waves generally don't break on the reef because the reef's too deep. The water depth here is about 10 to 15 feet, depending on the size of the surf. One of the dangers is that it breaks out very far, and there's a very, very strong riptide there. Probably 10 to 15 people drown a year. One of the big dangers at Waimea is being hit by a loose surfboard. When you have a lot of people out there surfing, which generally is the case, you'll get 50 or 60 guys out there on a good day, and probably only 10 or 12 of those are really experienced surfers. The rest of them aren't experienced surfers, and they tend to fall off their boards a lot. And when they do, those boards become lethal weapons. If you get hit by a board at Waimea, you're going to get hurt, because those boards are big boards, they're heavy boards, and they're traveling at unbelievable speeds with a lot of momentum. The wind there generally picks up the board and hurls it through space like it was a toothpick. If you happen to be paddling out and not notice a board flying through the air and it comes down and hits you, you could be knocked out or killed very easily.
Watch the surfer in the red trunks. He just avoided what could have been a fatal accident. Now that's what can happen when you change lanes without a signal. Wow, what a wipeout. Talk about peak traffic hours. Corky Carroll and the Hawaiian Surfers, Whitewater Thrillseekers.